Yeah.
It's, hopefully we are live on Facebook. Meeting is now streaming live. So yes, we have made it.
It is aligned.
Yeah,
aligned.
we are aligned. So I'm here with Wendy Spencer. Hooray! So lovely to see you, Wendy. And we have just had a shakeout. So I think we've just, we've just aligned.
I know, it's that quite energy up here, isn't it?
Yeah, we are going to be talking energy, but first, Wendy, actually, I didn't say about introducing yourself. I know there is a little blurb on the Facebook group, but yeah, are you happy to be, I'm putting you right on the spot now?
Yeah, of course. No, it's fine. So my work is really about guiding people to reconnect with their bodies through touch, through massage, through aromatherapy, so through smell and scent, and also through yoga, so through breath and movement. And I believe we're sensate beings, and so we perceive through our senses. And so I feel that that's our best way home, really, is to reconnect through our breath, through our touch. These are quite childlike ways of being in the world, and I think that's a really great place to begin to come back into the body through our senses.
See, you say that so beautifully, and when you say it, and I go, oh my goodness me, of course. And it's one thing reading it, but hearing you say it seems to make it so much more, makes it so much more alive. And it makes me think, of course, we've got smells that we associate with childhood and times and certain places, and we can, I know I've overlooked it. And actually, I think it was when I did a workshop with you, which I loved, and I still use that scent that I created with you, and it was so much fun.
Yeah.
And how I loved doing it, just what I call blind, where I just smell it and go, yes, is that right for me or not? And having, that's such a personal experience, but it's we can use scent, can't we, to help change our energetic state.
Yeah, we truly can. I mean, it's there's only a couple of synapses between the olfactory bulb at the top of the nose and the limbic part of the brain, so it doesn't have to go through hardly any filtering at all, which is why we're able, that smell evokes memory in an instant, or as somebody walks by you, or as you smell that lemon and you're transported back to your grandmother's lemon bush, as I was in New Zealand.
Oh, really?
Okay. Yeah, so it's and really I love this work because it's about feeling alive. It's about getting back in touch with a sense of aliveness and vitality, which is away from the cerebral brain and this stimulation that we get from the outside, and coming back into our senses and learning through our senses again.
And I guess it's something, we get so caught up in doing stuff, don't we? And I guess that, if you're using scent, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to go and sit on a cushion to meditate. Nothing wrong with meditation, obviously, but, you don't have to do anything. You can just be, can't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are hundreds of thousands of olfactory cells in every organ of the body. So the smell, we are olfactory. We are one big olfactory receptor. It's so we don't have to do anything at all except sort of receive the smell and just allow the body, allow the scent to move where it needs to, which is why essential oils are so powerful, really, because they work on different hormones, they work in physiologically with the chemical constituents. So they're great allies to have. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and we certainly need allies right now, don't we? And I know I use some essential oils, and they have really supported me, and yeah, we'll continue to have them in my kit for sure. I love it. So yeah, it's really good to hear that, and I'm sure that's useful for people to hear that whole, the fact we've got thousands of olfactory, oh my did you say bulbs? Is that the word, olfactory?
Oh, well, the olfactory bulb is kind of just at the bridge of the nose up
Okay.
here. But we have olfactory receptors. So, yeah, receptor cells, yeah.
Wow, on every organ, in or on every.
Yeah, so constantly communicating with brain, tweaking hormones, lowering and raising blood pressure, and the nervous system as well. They play a big part. So
Wow,
yeah.
that's incredible, isn't it, when you think about it? Such power to have, you know.
Yeah, and why they need to be treated with respect as well, because they are super powerful in that way.
Yeah. Yes, yes. Always get your information from somebody trained and who knows what they're doing, right? It's a little bit like supplements and people popping supplements.
Sure.
Going,
Yeah.
actually treat them with respect as well, because you can have too much of a good thing, and that's the same, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's about finding the right balance. And actually that will take us into something we want to talk about in a bit. But first of all, because this is partly all to do with the lockdown, I don't even like to say it, experience that's given me the time to be able to speak to some of the women I know, like, trust, admire, have a relationship with. And so how has your lockdown been? What's been going on for you, Wendy?
Well, do you know, I'm quite an introvert, so I sort of welcomed it at first. It felt like the rest of the world or the rest of the country was coming into where I prefer to be, which is kind of at home, and then having the choice when I go out, rather than being out in the world a lot and then just coming back home for a bit of sanctuary. So I sort of spending more of my time at home anyway. And so actually I did welcome it at first. And I mean, it was definitely a shock with the homeschooling. And, you know, I found I'd always had this fantasy about homeschooling with my son and sort of free ranging. But actually the reality of homeschooling a reluctant 14-year-old is so very different. And of course, it just being him and I, you know, and we weren't really able to go out. So it wasn't learning in that way. So I struggled with that. And of course, there is a continuum with that still, because we're still having to do with it. But, you know, I feel like we found our groove. I would say the biggest challenge for me has been about touch, though. It's, you know, being my work. So obviously my massage had to take a completely back step. And my yoga came more to the forefront. So I'm super grateful for that. But you know, I just lived with my son and my dog, and I was really missing having, you know, tactile connection with friends. And what I realized about myself is that you know, I like being around other people when I choose.
Yeah,
Because it's almost like a co-regulation for me. It really helps me regulate my nervous system. And actually my massage work is incredibly grounding for me. So I found that really challenging, and still do, how much I'm missing touch. And, you know, I sometimes try and corner my son as he's walking, and I put my hands on his shoulder. I literally corner him and say, do this. And he, you know, and he'll accommodate and draw me in, but it's a quick kind of release. And in that moment, I have to go and just take what I need, because he's really the only person, the other person that I've touched in this time. And so I've found self-massage really, really helpful, and just being very mindful when I get out of the shower as well, not to do a quick sort of rub down of the towel, but actually, you know, take a little bit of time to connect with my body. And also this action of stroking as well. Apparently we need a good 3 or 4 seconds for the brain to register the you know, for our touch receptors, for our nerves to register that this is actually a very soothing thing. And so it's able to release the serotonin and the dopamine, you know, that it just allows us to feel safe as well. So yeah, so that's been something helpful. It's not the same. It's not the same, and I do miss it, but actually it's okay. I haven't, collapsed because of it. So it's, we sort of, I think sometimes that anticipation of losing something is far worse than the actual experience of it, isn't it? And so being in it, and just being able to realize that I can manage myself in these difficult times. It's not all about rushing out to make connection with somebody else. It's okay, how can I support myself in this? Because I'm in it now. It's like, this is the whole country. It was so fascinating, wasn't it? How the whole country was in it, and the whole world was in it for a while. It's like deep in this calling ourselves to be our steadying hand. And what do we need? What do I need now?
Honestly, that is, I don't, sometimes there are not words to be able to say, but what you've just said and described so beautifully about how the whole experience, you kind of summed it up so well in that, okay, I'm almost observing what's going on, and that's the word, I guess. It sounds like this is your reflection and observation of your experience, and it's so fascinating to hear how different people are. And I've had quite a few introverts, interestingly, and I don't know if I'm an introverted extrovert or an extrovert.
Right,
sure.
But I understand. We're full of paradoxes, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. We don't have to fit into boxes here, do we? But for people who are introverted, who have maybe gone, okay, yeah, I can do this, but to allow yourself to experience all of those feelings and ride with it is quite powerful, isn't it? Rather than just shutting yourself out and just either get into Netflixing or get into these coping mechanisms and just waiting until the time is, that's like when things are back to normal, which we all know is not.
Yeah. And I in conversations with friends, that I realized early on that this was an incredible opportunity, and to try and rush back into where we were previously, we could miss just this an extraordinary inquiry, really. I mean, how unusual, even if it's just looking at the sky with no planes in it, and taking in just like, that's just, maybe I'll never see that again. But I do think the opportunity of building resilience as well, and I know that word is kind of banded around. But I read a really beautiful definition of it, that resilience is the mental reservoir of strength that you call upon when things fall apart. And I really love that, because I think we need it now more than ever. And like this morning, I was listening to a really interesting interview with the woman who's written White Fragility, the book about white people understanding their white privilege and white supremacy, and the discomfort that was coming up as I was listening. This feeling of, this is true. I could feel it in my body. And I thought, you have choices to make. You either want to push that discomfort away and go, I need to find my equilibrium so I feel comfortable in this, or I sit with the discomfort and I begin a trajectory of shifting my whole consciousness and understanding the system that we live in. And I could feel the choice that was there. And I don't like feeling discomfort. I don't like the anxiety that rises up in me, and to feel that I actually have a safe vessel. My body is a safe vessel. It is a container with which I can go, this feels terrible. This feels so uncomfortable, but I'm going to sit in it. It's not going to last forever. And all that's being asked of me is to slowly take off these this certain way of seeing and believing that I have certain privilege and position. And I thought, just sit with it, just sit with it. And so, yeah, resilience is part of that, I think, having the mental strength to deal with discomfort, be it lockdown, be it what we're as a white person, we're being asked to do now. You know, it's
I think it's no accident that this has come up at a time when we are being forced to be uncomfortable. And of course, it's our choice whether to go, okay, I'm going to go with that, or to just do the avoidance tactic and pretend nothing's happening, and this whole let's wait until things are better again. And I certainly do know some people who are doing that, and it's not a judgment, it's an observation. It's kind of like, oh, that's how that person's behaving, and that's how that person's behaving, that's how I'm behaving. And it's a chance to be your own observer, isn't it, and go, gosh, actually I am quite resilient, and you know, I've got these coping mechanisms that maybe we've never realized before, but being forced into this situation gives us that opportunity, doesn't it, to go, okay, well, maybe I could tweak these things here. And I think that being uncomfortable, and I'd love to listen to that. Was it on the radio? Well, I'll talk to you about it afterwards. That talk, we can maybe mention it, because I'm sure other people want to as well. You know, and I'm reading Me and White Supremacy. Ouch. Yeah, that, I feel that, you know, that uncomfortable feeling, but it's there to teach us something, isn't it? If we just go, well, I'm just going to pretend that's not happening, we don't learn anything.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I think within that as well, it's important to feel that you have, that you're grounded. You know, this isn't, particularly if you're quite sensitive, and I don't mean, again, that sort of white fragility thing, but like if you're sensitive, you can't watch lots of images of police brutality, and you know, so being grounded and going, I need to just look at this and take this information and feel just what needs to be felt. So the body as well, the sensations and emotions and thoughts in the body arise as messengers. You know, they're not harmful. They're just asking really to be heard. And so it's just being able to give yourself enough space and time to go, okay, do the practices that ground you so that we can do the work that's necessary for our collective liberation, essentially. Because, you know, well, for me, it's about freedom as well. So,
yeah. And I think that, you know, people of colour, when they talk about the white woman wailing and how they get, I'm talking very generally here, but how the message is that, oh, for God's sake, you know, that's not going to do anything. And you know, I felt sensitive to that and gone, well, yeah, I get it. And it's, you know, and I'm feeling the pain. But can't remember where I was even going with that, but for those of us who identify as empathic and highly sensitive people, it's yes, managing all of that, and then using it for good. If you're touched by this, then do something. That's kind of
exactly. Yeah.
Oh, and yes, I know what I was going to say now. So I have recently been, with my energy work, I have spoken to when I've had fear about stuff, you know, various things that have happened for me over the past 18 months. And I've squashed and avoided and pushed those things down because I haven't wanted to feel them. But when I have started to ask myself, to speak to my fear, hello, fear, what have you got to teach me? What is it you want to say? And bizarrely, I get answers, which I know there's lots of people in this group who will probably be nodding and going, well, of course you do. But there'll also be some people who don't. And we're just offering this out as a conversation to help people go, oh, gosh, well, maybe, what if I tried that? You know, and then give yourself some nice stroking and some compassion as well.
Yeah, and of course, you know, if you make that inquiry with your body, it may not answer in a way that's obvious. It's not going to say, well, I'm feeling very frustrated. You know, it may appear, you know, it may be a shape or a feeling, a texture, you know, feeling it through the senses more. And it's an inquiry, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is, and it's part of us. It's, I really love that idea of, not just coming home to ourselves, but drawing in all these different parts of us that we've kind of scattered into the wilderness, whatever that landscape is for you. And I don't know, maybe using that idea of opening the door and welcoming, that you wouldn't shut the door on a friend that needed your help. You know, why can't we see parts of ourselves in that way? You know, just retrieving, remembering, you know, all of these parts, you know, so that there we do have a sense of wholeness. And if we're not quite ready to confront, we can ask, you know, come and sit next to me. I like the idea of that I've got a fire going and I can say, just come and sit by the fire and I'll be with you in a while. Like if I'm not quite ready, because, you know, we've got all sorts of things in our past that are very difficult to deal with.
Oh, yes.
You know, but yeah, somehow just welcoming those things back in.
Yeah, and to do it with compassion as well. And I know my recent work, my research around shame and shame-bound parenting, and how uncomfortable that is, and that realization that I've also done that. And, you know, rather than, you know, the old me who might have gone, oh, for God's sake, why did you do that? X, Y, and Z expletives in there. And to be able to just, again, observe and notice what's coming up, and deal with yourself in a very kindly way, and be, I love being curious, and I think you do too, Wendy, that
Really.
that you know, because it takes us out of sometimes the harshness, I think, that can come up. Well, you know, that's part of my story, I know, and I think many women as well, particularly women who've been doing the dieting journey, we can look at things very harshly, and ourselves very harshly. So inviting in the kindness and the curiosity helps you to look at it in a very different way. And
And maybe just be a little playful as well, and have some lightness. I realised another insight that I had with the lockdown was that I really am not as fascinating as I thought I was. I was just like, you know, we're talking like 7 weeks in, and I'm, you know, it's just been me and my son, and I've been walking in nature, and it's just like, Jesus, girl, you know, it's like, you know, you're not that interesting. You know, it's just because I almost felt like I just came up again, you know, maybe it was a wall, but another invitation to drop deeper into some of this BS that kind of floats around as well. There's a lot of ego, isn't there? And it's like,
for sure. And it's all this busyness going on up here, isn't it?
I know, yeah, really.
And I loved part of our conversation yesterday, and I, you know, and you just said about, you know, there's some of the gold in there that the lockdown has taught us and has taught you, has given you those, you know, gifts and insights. And the thing that you were saying yesterday is about really sort of tuning into what your body wants. And I think, you know, if we stay up here, there could be several conversations going on, but it's when you can get down here, I'm doing that, but when we can get down into our bodies and go, oh, okay, what's going to be good for me today? And I love that genius thing that you said, which I completely loved. Will you say that? Do you know the thing I mean?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, I think, you know, we end up having we go on a certain momentum throughout the day, don't we? From the moment we wake up, you know, we do a quick track of what we've got planned for the day in our diary or friends. And, you know, that is our momentum then. And then at the end of the day, we find ourselves in bed, and we haven't really checked in or caught up with ourselves. And the momentum has dictated how we felt throughout the day. So sometimes when I remember too, I imagine what I would like to feel like at the end of the day and how I can create that. So even with a swirl of appointments or commitments or, you know, roles or duties that we have to do, chores, errands, how I can weave into my day the nourishment that I need to feel however I want to at the end of the day, be it energized or relaxed, connected, hopefully, you know, whatever it is, how can I weave that in? What do I really need for the day. And, you know, of course we have commitments that we need to keep to, but they don't need to be at the forefront. Sometimes it's like, I'll do this, and then I can give this time to myself, or whatever it is. It may be connecting with friends, it may be having a call, or
and I think I really like that idea of you choosing how you want to be, and you kind of work backwards from that, but actually very practically putting those things into place. And that might be, you know, I want to feel grounded, or whatever it is that you want to feel. You might want to feel joyful, and let's not forget that, because I think we still can have those little moments, can't we, of gold. It could be longer moments, and yes, let's have those. Let's not go, well, I'll wait until afterwards. You know, it's really important. Playful. Oh yes, I think I might want to feel playful today. And
sorry, go on.
Yeah, and what can I put in place? And even looking at your diary and writing it in your diary, well, here, this is what I'm going to do. I don't know, whatever it is. I'm going to go and hula hoop in the garden for 10 minutes or whatever.
Yeah. Checking in with yourself is so important. I read today about something about, you know, check in with yourself as much as you check into Instagram or Facebook. It's like, if we were able to do that and go, you know, how is the day going for me? You know, it's doesn't always feel like it's in our control. A big thing for me, I know that we're going to be closing, but a really important thing for me is walking in nature. Like, it's one of the most fundamental ways that I ground myself. My fundamental basic need, I've realized, along with food and shelter. And what I've noticed most of all is this reciprocity of nature. This, you know, it's felt almost as though, particularly with the blossom, and everything's been so beautiful while we were in lockdown, that it felt like the branches of the trees were just reaching out and enveloping me. Like, I'd walk underneath them in Morling Down, and I'd walk underneath them, and it was just, I felt enveloped by them. Like, I felt like the ground supporting me, the greenness of the leaves and the fields and the hills, and I thought, it's all there supporting me. And that was filling me up. That was my connection. That was my regulator that I needed when I couldn't be with people.
I agree with you 100% on that. My dog's agreeing as well.
Yeah,
So I've enjoyed all these extra walks. Thank you very much. And being able to hear the birds, and being able to, I mean, I've done mine as slow walks. I haven't been running or anything like that. I don't know why my dog is barking so much. Maybe he's reminding me we haven't been out today, but yeah, it's been what I have needed. And even getting my hugs from the trees. Yes, I am a tree hugger.
Yeah, me too. And, you know, it's not so warm to walk barefoot, but whenever possible, you know, the grass is so soft at the moment, even if it's just 100 meters somewhere. And that is, you know, that's incredible grounding. And
yeah, or even standing on the spot, right? Even if you stand and you do some breathing, and you breathe really down into your lungs and fill up the body, that is such a beautiful thing to do. And in fact, what I wanted to finish on, and I don't think I'd said this to you, is there something that you want to share with the world, with the group, with anyone right now? And is that it? Is that your, you know, find your thing, or what would you like to share? Is there something?
Well, I would definitely say my number one is walking out in nature where possible. Breath. I know other people in your these Wellness Wednesdays have spoken about breath as well, but it is the greatest ally that we have. Absolutely. So anytime that you can, even if it's just placing the steadying hands that we have, placing hand on heart, hand on belly, and breathing in for 4, and then exhaling for 4 or more. is really good. So when the exhalation is a little bit longer than the inhalation, it just really helps bring the nervous system down. So the sympathetic comes down, and the parasympathetic, which is all about resting, is able to kind of become a little bit more dominant, isn't quite the right word, but you know. So and also just saying, Donna Fari, who's one of my favorite yoga teachers, she has something which is the WHO breath. It's WHO, and it's very, very subtle. You inhale through your nose, and then you exhale with a, so very, very soft. It's almost like listening to the sound of the noise in a seashell. And it's so soft, and you just follow it through to the end of the exhalation, and then breathe in again through the nose, and then exhale. Very, very gently, almost like so the candle wouldn't flicker. And that's extraordinary. If you do it, follow it for 10 breaths, amazing.
And I'd muted myself because my dog's still going nuts, but thank you for sharing that. Talking for a bit longer. There's a delivery man across the road, and the dog, just like letting me know. But I think I'm going to check that practice out for sure. And I think this is the thing, that we can take these little moments of self-care, and they don't have to be, you don't have to spend hours doing things, and sometimes just 3 to 5 minutes, if you're sprinkling those throughout the day. Genius.
Or just the stroke.
Oh, I'm so going to be stroking.
Stroking is really great.
Yeah. No, in my Pilates classes, I say, give yourself a hug. I think, we can still hug ourselves, but I think we're meant to go to stroking, and I'm definitely going to be doing that breathing practice.
Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you so much.
I've loved it, and just being with you as well.
Yeah.
Being with you as we are now. But thank you. Wonderful.
No. Thank you so much. Thank you. And so we'll say goodbye to everyone in the group. Thank you everyone.
Yeah, thank you
watching. And I hope you liked Wendy's words of wisdom. Oh, there we go. Thanks everyone.
Bye.